Welcome to the Chico Creates podcast, where we interview local artists, musicians, and makers here in Chico, California. I am your host, Kira Barsotti, and with me today is Rebecca Shelly. Rebecca studied painting at the Maine College of Art and got her Master of Fine Arts degree at Portland State University in Oregon. She currently teaches in the art department at California State University, Chico. She is also the owner of her own creative space called Weft and Willow Fiber Art Studio, where she teaches workshops, spins yarn, weaves, and sews. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself beyond the bio.
Sure. I grew up in New Hampshire. My family were organic gardeners, and
cool.
I assumed everybody had a garden of their own food, that their mom made the homemade ketchup, and that was, what?
That was normal.
That was normal.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, really gave me a great base to build upon. I've always been drawing and painting as far as I can remember, and creative projects have always been really easy for me to get. And so I, signed up for photography in college, and that was filled. So painting was my next choice. But then I ended up painting and focused on that. And I did that for a long time. And just love color so much. A lot of times I tend to go towards imagery or work that's around gardening or nature, I think because of how I grew up.
Right.
And so that's kind of a little bit about my backstory.
Yeah, I love that. And I love New England. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's beautiful, but it's cold.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yep.
Yeah. No, my husband and I did a road trip across the country several years ago, and the furthest point we got was Maine. We drove over from New Hampshire to Maine and then spent a couple weeks at my great uncle's cabin, and it was freezing, and the heater broke at one point. It was in November.
Oof.
Yeah. So anyway, just the, like the edge of winter experience there for me.
Yep. Yeah. When it's -10 for multiple weeks in a row, that's
a little
not
much.
my jam.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you came to the opposite.
Yeah.
Or the furnace for 6 months of the year.
Yes. But I'd rather have that.
Yeah. Yeah. And how long have you lived in Chico?
So we moved here in 2016.
Okay.
And going back to Maine, I was living in Maine. So I went to the Maine College of Art, and then I lived in Portland, Maine there. Then I moved to Portland, Oregon, and spent most of my 20s there and had a great time, went to graduate school there. And that's where I met my partner, Stuart. And then I convinced him to go back to Maine.
Okay.
So then we went to Portland, Maine, and we did 3 years in Maine. And he was just like, "No, this is too cold." I, one of his friends had passed here in Chico, and so he's like, "Okay, let's head to Chico." And I was like, "What? Moving across country again?"
Yeah.
But I'm so glad we did because
Yeah.
I really love it out here. And yeah, so basically it was him deciding the snow.
Yeah,
no more.
it's not gonna.
Yeah, is what kind of brought us here.
Yeah. Well, and if you love gardening, this is an amazing place to garden.
This is where Stuart's from.
Okay.
And so that's, kind of reconnecting with that for him was why we came here.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
And so then, that explains what brought you here and what's keeping you here is, his connection.
So a lot of his family is now in Indiana, where he's from.
Okay.
But it's been teaching. I've been really lucky to be able to get teaching jobs at Chico State and then Butte College as well. And so I feel really fortunate to be part of a lot of people's creative lives.
Yeah. That is really special.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Do you have any favorite local spots or places to hang out?
Well, my studio.
I hear you.
And then the answer that everybody else has given so far is, the parks.
Yes.
I love to bike, and being able to go swimming when it's really hot is just what you do in the summer here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and I love having our, totally public swimming hole, that 1 mile.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really special park. Like, I know we say it every episode, but it deserves all the praise.
Yeah, because how many places have a huge park down the middle of their town.
Yeah.
And, we watched the what was the movie, Robin Hood, that was filmed here at the local theater, at the Pageant Theater.
Yep.
And then going out after and biking through, I was picturing, that we were on the horses going through the scenes with that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's pretty special.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I forget the other movies, but I know there have been other movies filmed in Bidwell Park. I should find out what they are, just so that I have it in my pocket. But so tell me a little bit about how you got into fiber arts.
Yeah, so my mom growing up, she did sew a quilt. She did a hand sewn quilt. She did a class, and that's kind of all I had sort of known about with fiber, but it didn't really click with me. It wasn't until I was out of graduate school, and so this would have been in 2009, my old roommate gave me her old sewing machine, and I was like, okay, I'll sew something, and like I was really excited about that. And so I had found this shirt pattern, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to sew this shirt. And then I walked into the place where I got the pattern from. I'm like, I'm so excited, I made a shirt, and it fit. And she was like, does it fit, really? And so I went back and looked at it in the mirror. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, this doesn't fit. And because I'm such a creative person, I had to then learn why it doesn't fit, how to figure out how to manipulate patterns so that they'd fit.
Yeah.
And that brought me down this whole creative garment sewing. I wore everything I wore today. I sewed. I made.
Me made
here.
May.
Me made. Oh, yes. Perfect. Yes. All right. And so then when we moved to Maine, I got into quilting. There was a quilt shop that was right across from our house. And I got into quilting. And then I decided to, at one point I was teaching in the art department there. I was a long-term art substitute. And there was some girls sitting around the table, and it reminded me of a stitch and I don't know if I can say the word.
Oh, yeah.
Bitch.
Stitch and bitch. Yeah.
Stitch and bitch. And I was like, I'm going to have them actually sew a quilt. Okay, I got to learn how to quilt,
Yes.
learn how to do this.
And then learn how to teach them.
And teach them, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of like how I work with things. And so this opened up this whole new thing of, quilting and sewing with that. And then, so I did that for years. And then I was teaching at Butte College, and they needed a new fiber art instructor. And they had offered it to me knowing that I sewed garments and quilts. I told them I don't know how to weave or spin or natural dye. But they're like, oh, I'm sure you can, figure some stuff out. Yeah. So once again,
yes.
I feel like you learn things differently if you have to teach them.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So I just went full throttle kind of into learning how to do these things, not realizing where I'm at now, how that was going to influence where I started.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Do you have a favorite fiber art, like faber craft? Or does it change weekly?
It's whatever project I'm working on at the time.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. And so people don't know yet quite what it is I have.
Right.
My studio.
Right.
Is that the next question?
Oh,
Or
sure.
where are we
Yeah.
at?
Yeah. No, we can totally, free form it. Go for it.
Yeah. So I was teaching at both the colleges, and it was a lot of work. And so I decided to focus on teaching at just one of them and open up my own studio. And so a bunch of people had been wanting to give me looms and different things. And so I had found a space with my friends Ron and Kathy, and Kathy was a weaver. And so we found this amazing space that is on Park Ave right next to Orient and Flume Glass. And it has a huge front porch surrounded by trees. You probably don't know it's there. It's this little...
it's kind of tucked away.
Yeah, it's sort of off the street. And it's been fantastic. So I have been filling it with looms and spinning wheels and sewing machines.
All those beautiful old things. Yeah.
Yes. And so,
I love it.
Yeah, so I do workshops in there to kind of pay for rent, and then I've been making different projects and having fun. I've got a few people who are kind of renting out corners with looms as
perfect.
well,
Yeah.
and so it's nice to have
because
some
oh
people
my gosh,
in there.
storing some of those things, they can get huge.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why people have been giving me a lot of the
Right.
equipment, right? Is because they don't have the room for it. And
Yeah.
they see my joy and excitement of all of this and kind of have been amazingly gifting me some amazing tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any rituals or routines when either, working on an ongoing project or starting a new one?
Well, I always have so many projects going on all the time. It's just how how it is, especially with processes that are long periods.
And like repetitive.
Yeah. And so typically drawing is how I always start. For me, I love to draw. One of my favorite classes I like to teach is basic drawing because you get to see the the student where they start and how they progress. And I feel that anyone can draw.
Yes.
And you just have to want to learn and put in the time to do that. And so for me, drawing out my idea is how I start the process. And with weaving, there's so much math that is part of that.
Yeah.
And I cringe when I think about math, but I've been more open to it now that I've been weaving because you have to have things set up correctly.
Yes.
Or you're just going to waste your time.
Yep.
So I make handouts that like I can fill out, and that is just something that I really enjoy, that process of it too, and kind of preparing with that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
handout.
Yeah, that's been something like I got into knitting a couple years ago, and with certain projects you really can fudge it, but if you're like trying to make a sock, for instance, the math is important.
Yes. And
It's really got to fit.
The knowledge of the actual size of your foot.
Yeah.
I made the wrong size socks recently, and they're in the dryer right now, so I'll find out when I get
Hoping
home.
they shrink a little bit.
They shrunk a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a fun process.
Yeah, right. And
For
so
me.
that was also a new thing that I learned and picked up is knitting because you're around so much yarn.
Yeah.
I have basically 3 collections of weaving yarns
wow.
of different peoples that are also in my studio. And so, I got to figure out lots of things to do.
And they say that collecting yarn and using it are 2 completely different hobbies, and it is true.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I worked at Honey Run Quilters for 3 years too, so I've got a lot of fabric.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same with fabric, collecting fabric and using it, 2 different hobbies.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, love that. And what does your creative process look like on a day-to-day basis?
It's hard because I teach full time, and so a lot of times in the morning I'll start off with, kind of figuring out what I can do in the morning if I've got time, or sometimes I'll have a day where I just teach one class, and so after that is my studio time. And so what I like to do is kind of have different areas in my studio set up, or different containers where I'll work on some stuff in the studio, and then a lot of times I'll have handwork at night. And so I've got this bag that is just always going back and forth that has my different projects. And I finally set up a sewing machine at home as well, because I have plenty of sewing machines. So I have some at the studio and one at home now, so I can do some projects there as well.
That's awesome.
So.
And what projects are you currently working on that you're super excited about?
Oh, there's so many projects. I think, I don't know. It's the end of the semester, so my brain's a little zapped.
Yeah.
But I've been making a lot of bags with my weavings.
Oh, cool.
Because I have 31 looms. I have 6 spinning wheels. I've got like 7 sewing machines, 2 long arm quilting machines.
Wow.
I've had a lot of trying to learn how to use all these different tools. And so I've got a lot of things that are like a small weaving project on a loom because I don't know how to use it yet. So, okay, let's learn. So then I've got all of these little pieces of weaving that now I'm turning into these little bags, because then that's something that I can use, I can sell. And so that is something that I've been doing because there's,
it's like a good use of a swatch kind of a thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I've been really enjoying that, and I've got some towels that I've been working on. I have an AVL loom, which is an amazing loom. That I have it set up to a computer that I put my I put my pattern into a program, and then I just have 2 treadles with 16 shafts, and so that means that basically I design my pattern, so I've got different colorways, and so I'm just going back and forth, and the loom will lift the right shafts.
Oh, wow.
And I can have a really intricate pattern because there's 16 options. Most looms have 4 options. And then I just got this tool that throws the bobbin back and forth like the shuttle. And so it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I love being able to use that.
Yeah.
I also have a barrel loom that is it's the same kind of concept, but it's this metal barrel that has all these holes in it and these pegs that when you're weaving it based off of what pegs are in place, will create your pattern. And I've got different tapestry looms. I just got a rug loom that is made by one of the most amazing rug weavers too. So
cool.
I'll be doing some weaving classes this summer that's making your own rug, because that's kind of where I'm at right now too.
Yeah.
Is getting excited about that.
Yeah.
So it started this summer.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh my gosh, there's so many things. I like I said, I've been knitting, but I just am tiptoeing into spinning. I was doing drop spindle, and now I have a little electric eel that I like, a little electric spinner. But it's
well, and spinning too is so lovely. I never thought I would be a spinner or a weaver. That was never something I'd ever thought I'd be, and now I'm so obsessed.
Yeah.
There's something about that meditative process that really you get to get lost in that, and so I have a really nice spinning wheel that I have at home that I, sometimes after a long day of teaching, I'm an introvert, so teaching is really
that.
it kind of takes a lot out of me. So sitting down at the spinning wheel really helps to be able to zone out and reset.
Do you like to listen to music or podcasts or have TV on or while you work?
All of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of depending on my mood, and so and I don't listen to music as much as I used to because of streaming, right?
Yeah.
And there's certain albums that I'll listen to. I'm like, all right, yes, where have you been?
Yeah.
And because there's something about music that can really take you back into a point in your history so intensely too.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy that.
Well, and it's funny, I have now, you mentioned music taking you back. Now I have certain knitting projects that I associate with a TV series or something.
Yes,
that's what I worked on while I watched that entire show,
Yes, I know. I was working on something recently that I was like, ooh, do I want to have this memory of this?
That sure really wasn't that great. Why did I spend so much time?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of got started knitting to justify my TV habit because I was working from home at the time. This was pre-pandemic, and so I was just spending a lot of time at home, and it felt indulgent to just watch TV at the end of the day. So knitting felt productive.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then I had mastered it by the time the shutdown happened, so I had something to entertain myself.
Yep. There you go. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have any upcoming projects or classes? I know you mentioned the rug class.
Yeah, so I'm going to have a rug class, and so when this comes out, June will be coming around, and so I'm going to have some workshops that are, I'll probably do another one that's with spinning. I'm going to do the weaving class, which that one, when this comes out, might have already started. I'm still kind of getting that set up, but I'm going to be teaching in July a natural dye workshop.
I was going to ask about that. I know your last one went really well.
Yeah, well, this is because of that. A friend brought up that they were looking for teachers in Gray Eagle, California. And so it's an arts and craft camp, the 50/80 camp.
Oh, cool.
And so, well, it's not really a camp, it's more of a location where classes are taught for adults
Right.
of crafting things.
Yeah.
And
summer camp for grown-ups.
Yeah, summer camp for grown-ups. And there's a lot of things that you can go do in that area that are either camping or there's bed and breakfasts. And so it's a weekend where I will be showing you how to natural dye.
Awesome.
We're going to be next to a river, and you'll go home with lots of naturally dyed yarns. And I just have so many books about natural dye, and I really love. So for me, growing up on an organic farm, this feels so completely natural too, of thinking about, the use of the different chemicals with dye. And we are actually in one of the best locations for natural dye material, plant-wise here.
Yeah.
So, and we also are an incredible area for mushrooms. So that's a new thing too people are getting really into. And I have a Miriam Rice book that I got about mushroom dyeing on the coast. And so I've been really kind of getting excited about that now as well.
Yeah.
So,
it's not just, I know avocado pits and onion skins are like easy kitchen materials, but, we've got, I know pokeberries are poisonous, but I also know they make a great dye.
Oh my God, I love it so much.
Yeah. And they are plentiful by the end of
very
summer.
Plentiful.
Yeah.
And we have walnuts everywhere. The oak galls we have everywhere, and so it's a really plentiful area.
Yes, we live in a very abundant
yes
place in the world, which is wonderful.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what is the best part about being an artist in Chico?
Oh, I think I've been really incredibly lucky to be a teacher here in a few different communities, and that when we first moved here, the butcher shop was happening, and the butcher shop was a group of people that, since Stuart was in high school, they would get together every summer and put on a performance. They'd write a play, they'd set it up, they'd throw it together in a few weeks and then perform it. And so that weekend they had, or not that weekend, but when we first moved here, I'm like, okay, there's my artists. I got to go there. And
there's my people.
There's my people, right? And so, especially when you move to a new place, right? You got to find your people. And so I went there, and I was really so happy that I did, because I got to make some friends that I'm really now still close with. And then that has led to a lot of different things. And one of the reasons I was able to just jump right into teaching here as well. Fellow teachers that I was working with there. And so,
Community. Community here is awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to share about, touch on?
Well, so I have been wanting to reach as many people with my creative projects, because I just love making things. I love exploring. And so the research project is such a major thing that I really love. And so I feel like I have a lot of different areas that I've explored, and that I've got a lot of knowledge that I can share because of that. And as a teacher, that's what I do.
Right.
And that I've been for so long wanting to create a Patreon. And so by the time this comes out, I'll have launched it.
Awesome.
And so what I'll be doing is I'll be doing some monthly videos that are sharing, the different things with the different types of creative processes that I really love, and, creating some community with that. So
I love that.
Yeah, the people will be my Wefties, because
Awesome.
Weft and Willow is my name. So my Wefties will be people that I'll be having as part of that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are the kind of different tier levels? What can people don't know yet?
So
it'll be awesome.
Yeah, I basically have a few different options, and it's just hard being a full-time teacher, right?
Yeah,
so
I get that. I've done Patreon in the past, and just for me personally, I didn't I didn't invest the time to figure out like the right balance of what's worth my time and, you know, finding a critical mass of people to make it worth your time kind of a thing. I know you'll figure it out, but, but that's the one like tricky thing about Patreon is you do have to figure out like what, you know, making what you're offering valuable to people, but also like not a huge burden on yourself.
Being realistic,
you know?
right? And that's what I've learned too with teaching at both the colleges too, is how much actual time do I have, right? And so somebody once gave me the tip with Patreon is that make it for things that you're already doing. Yeah. Right? And so for me, I love that research process. And so sharing some of the things. I have so many books that I have too on weaving and different, you know, things with that I think would be interesting to kind of share with people, you know, some of the things that I've learned because this is all still new, right?
Yeah.
So I've only been doing this for 4 years.
Right.
And yet I'm completely obsessed.
Yeah. I would have assumed you've been doing it for your whole life.
No, but I've been drawing and painting my whole life, right?
Yeah.
And so that's always been really easy for me. And so that's where, you know, I don't fear the challenge. And I think that's what a lot of happens with a lot of people is they don't know where to start. Yeah. And so the podcast too, not the podcast.
This is the podcast.
This is the podcast. The Patreon will be kind of helping people break through those blocks.
Yeah.
And just getting started.
Yeah. And that's super key. Like I was fortunate to have my sister-in-law like obsessed with knitting, owned a yarn shop, and she actually taught me over Zoom how to knit.
Perfect.
Yeah. And, you know, because we were living on the East Coast at the time and she was over here on the West Coast. And, you know, yes, you can use YouTube to teach yourself things, but it's so different having a human show you, you know, how to do it. Yeah. And, so I think that's going to be just a really valuable resource for anyone who loves to make things and is interested in fiber arts.
Yeah, my mom wants to learn how to draw. And so I'm going to include that as part of it as well. She's in New Hampshire, so, you know, I have to do some drawing technique videos too. So
awesome.
That'll
so
be
it's
part
just
of
everything.
It.
I love that. Yeah. That's great.
So,
yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, I haven't talked about my website.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes,
please.
So people can find all the information on my website.
Yeah.
Weft is W-E-F-T and willow.com. And I have Instagram that I also use a lot of, and you can find the link on my website for that as well.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for throwing that in there. That's very important. How to find Rebecca online. And then, obviously, you know, your classes at the studio. You were at the Bazaar last December. Yeah. So do you do other markets ever?
There'll be one that will happen before this comes out.
Oh, right. Yeah, the Chico Art.
The Chico Art Festival.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And it's just I haven't had enough product yet, you know, because this has been all these learning experiences, right? And so now that I'm making the bags, it has something I'm creating. I'm also making stickers.
Awesome.
So I'm designing that. So that's another whole thing that I'm learning how to do. And so I've been doing yarn stickers
Love that.
with that. And so it's fun using my drawing.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah, bringing that back in. That's amazing. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. A woman after my own heart. A painter turned fiber artist.
I know. So the piece I made here, I kind of broke apart a paintbrush to act as the base for this. But,
little combo there.
That's fine.
Love it. Yeah. Well, definitely. I need to put a photo of the canvas on the socials so that everyone can see how far it's progressed. It's getting wild. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming and sharing your story. And best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And we will see you around town. Bye.
You only call me when you're lonely, darling, when you wanted something to change.
If you love what we're doing with the show, please consider becoming a supporter for as little as $5 a month. And if nothing else, subscribing and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast player is always very much appreciated and will help other people find us and the stories we share. You can find Chico Creates on Instagram at chico.creates. Thank you for listening and being part of our community.